Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collingwood for YouTube, Resident underslash of underslash Collingwood for BitShoot. And I'm here to talk about the character of Burke Devlin. So, am I going to just do Ryan Mitchell's portrayal? Nope, I am going to do Anthony George's too. By the way, today is Anthony George's birthday, so, you know, I think of the character of Burke Devlin, and I think of his arrival on the same train with Victoria Winters. And we first hear his name at that very train station Victoria Winters gets off at. You see the Collinsport sign, on the station. And when Vicky turns, you see this man standing there, and it's like, man, that dude got off this train too. And he had this look on his face, like, of giddiness, of he could not wait to see everyone's facial reaction. So she goes up to him and she's talking to him, and she says, "My name is Victoria Winters," and he goes, "Burke Devlin," and Burke, is very, I dare say, flirtatious with Victoria. I feel the seeds for Victoria and Burke were planted inside, right there at that train station. Their sort of potential love angle was planted right there, in my opinion, from this viewer's standpoint, because their reaction with each other isn't hostile. It's very back and forth. But what I'll say is, when Burke says, "Welcome to the beginning of and the end of the world, Miss Winters," and Vicky smiles at him like, "I'm not going that far, just to a place called Collingwood." Burke's facial reaction, Ryan Mitchell's facial reaction is beautiful. It's it's many things. It's confusion, it's betrayal, and it's hurt. And you might say, how do I get that from all that? For once, here's this girl he doesn't know. He only just now really met her, got her name, but he doesn't know diddly about her, jack and shit, if you will. And Jack's left town, but other than her name. And now he knows this girl's going up to there. This girl's going up to Collingwood. Like, man, this family, he's just, and then even though he doesn't know her, why is he hurt? You might say, why do I feel he's hurt? Because he just met this girl and he really likes her. I think, honestly, when you go look at their interaction, Alexander Isles and Ryan Mitchell's, and again, great job by them because of the interaction. They're really feeding off each other of, here's this girl no one knows. Here's this guy that is seemingly all too familiar with not just Collinsport now that you know, but Collingwood. And here's this girl going up to this Gothic mansion. So then they get to the hotel. And again, what we hear from Victoria about Ryan Mitchell's character, that whole car ride, now we don't hear this, but I believe it, that he's been telling her to go home, go back, don't go there, just leave. And she heard that the whole car ride there. Now, again, we don't hear that, but I do believe Alexander Isles Victoria Winters when she says this. And Ryan Mitchell puts this over too. He goes, "You can take my advice, leave, just go, don't go up there." And it's like, damn, either he hates them or he just really doesn't want her to go. But it's like, no, wait, it's both. He's just not trying to show it. And I do think he does a fabulous job. I can't tell you how many times I had to really watch Ryan Mitchell's performance to really pick up on the mannerisms of Ryan Mitchell's facial expressions. And again, it's something I didn't quite get right away. But when I watched Dark Shadows about the second time, I believe, and I was really watching Ryan Mitchell and paying attention to what he was more doing with his face before he spoke, it told me a lot about Burke Devlin. It told me a lot about the character itself, that he does have feelings. He's not this monster of a guy who's portraying himself as a heel. And what I'll dare say too is Ryan Mitchell's Burke Devlin is not a heel. I'm going to say that right here, right now. I've been debating this in my mind. Is Ryan Mitchell's Burke a heel? No. If you think about the 90s, and I know Dark Shadows was set in the 60s, there's shades of gray for characters. And that's what I feel Burke is. Burke is shades of gray. He's not really evil. He just wants the truth. Is that really evil? Sure, the way he's going about doing it isn't exactly the nicest thing. But in a town full of secrets with a family who's full of them, how else do you get that information? And mind you, no, I'm not necessarily siding with Burke on this or the character of him, but I'm more sort of trying to bring a different point of view to the character, that I don't feel he was a pure-blooded heel. And you might say, well, what about Roger's warning to Carolyn? Oh, he's just using you. He's just using you. Here's the thing about that. Yes, I do think he used Carolyn. But again, he was out for the truth. He had to do whatever it took to get that truth. The only thing this guy wanted was his name cleared. He didn't want Roger to go to prison. He just wanted his name cleared. He knew he didn't commit that manslaughter charge. He knew he didn't do it deep down inside. He knew he was in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And another thing, Ryan Mitchell's performance of trying to dig up any information, on the family, you might say, well, that's pretty shady. Again, he's trying to find about anything he can use as leverage to get his name cleared. And I'm going to use a great example of this. People are going to point to, well, he bought Logansport. He tried to buy Liz's captains from her. True, he did try to do that. But notice after he gets possession of Logansport and they're calling about it to him, he really doesn't give a shit about it. He goes, that's what I pay you for. I pay you to run this, not me. So he really doesn't, as long as it's getting run properly, it's not like he's checking it up on it day in and day out the way Liz and Roger were with Bill Malloy. When you watch, that's what I mean. When you watch Liz, Roger, and Bill Malloy, they're sweating, especially Roger, and Liz too. They're sweating Burke being back in town. They're literally like, oh shit, and now he's got money, and this dude does not like us. And more specifically, he doesn't like Roger. But he'll do anything to get to Roger. And again, once you find out that he doesn't really care that much about Logansport as we thought, after the captains pretty much all turn him down, and then they're calling, hey, this is what's going on. I don't care. That's what I pay you for. like, holy shit, wait a minute. You were just trying to buy her captains. And I'm going, well, wait a second. If you really didn't care, then why'd you try to go after her captains? All of this, the whole, I want to take over the Collins fortune, I want to take down the Collins family, is 1,000% bullshit. I honestly think if Roger would have been half the man, we thought he was, and we did find out that Roger does care for things. And I'm not saying he's a bad character. It's just, if Roger would have came to Burke, yes, I committed the manslaughter. I will admit it publicly. Leave my family alone. I think the whole matter would have been dropped. Honestly, I did. And people are going to point to Ryan Mitchell saying to Elizabeth he wants to take her out of business. I think that's just a ploy he's hanging on to, honestly. And I'll tell you why. He's really more trying to dig at Liz to find out more about Jason McGuire more than anything else. I mean, because Here's the sense I got from Ryan Mitchell's face when he interacts with Jason. Yeah, I'll be nice to you, but I really don't like you, and I don't like, damn sure don't like your friend Willie Loomis. And I think that's there from Ryan Mitchell, his facial reaction, his voice. You can tell he just despises Jason and Willie, and whatever they're doing to Liz and that family. He can't stand that they're doing it to them. And you might say, well, he can't stand it because it's not him. Look, Burke could have did this to this family up and down. He could have been doing something to the family up and down. He could have continued digging and digging and digging and digging. We don't hear Burke necessarily digging around about Elizabeth. He's more trying to dig up shit on Jason. He's more trying to, okay, what do you have on this poor woman? Like, what the hell? And that's where I really started to feel for Ryan Mitchell's character. He wanted to expose Jason and Willie long before Anthony George's character, because you could sort of sense that from, or Anthony George's portrayal, I should say. And I think that really does plant the seeds for Anthony George when he comes later, and I'm going to get into him here in a second. But what I'll say is, where I pick all this up from is the blue whale sequences with Jason and Willie. You can just tell Jason despises that, or sorry, Burke despises them. And no, I'm not going to edit that out. It's a Dark Shadows video. Dark Shadows was full of bloopers. Do I do that on purpose? No, but as my friend Mark has pointed out to me, Dark Shadows is full of bloopers. So, hey, if you have bloopers in your video, it's all good. I love it, dude. I love it, bro. I agree with you, too. Here's the thing. When Ryan Mitchell is talking to Jason, sure, he's somewhat, but he's not afraid to be loud with him. And he's almost loud right away to a degree. He's just like, man, I know you're scum, and I know your friend is scum too. Like, he can just pick up on it. He can feel it in the room. And so can you as the audience. You could cut the tension with a dull spoon. You don't need a knife. You don't. You could just cut the tension really easily. And then, there's the disappearance of Maggie Evans, which really makes you fall more in love with Ryan Mitchell's portrayal of Burke Devlin. He cares. He's made up with Sam. They're patched through. They're friends again. They never really stopped being friends, honestly. I just think Burke wanted the truth. He wanted his name cleared. He just wanted to hear. He wanted to hear what he already knew. And I know that's going to sound strange, but sometimes there are characters who know things, but they want other people to admit to them. And again, that's something I think that Burke Devlin really is dead set on. He wants the truth. So when Maggie goes missing, man, Burke is just like, he's trying to help Sam. He's trying to do everything he can to help Sam go to the sheriff. And then the end of Ryan Mitchell is him talking to the male doctor, Dr. Woodward, I should say. Woodard, I should say, sorry. Woodward. But he's talking to him, and that's the last time we see of Ryan Mitchell. Now, the next time we see Burke, he's a completely different actor. Anthony George. I love how they introduce Anthony George as Burke Devlin, sitting next to Victoria on a beach, and his first words, I can't believe she's dead. I can't believe it. And they're talking about Maggie Evans. Keep in mind, Joe Haskell, Dr. Woodard, Dr. Hoffman, Sam Evans have faked Maggie Evans' death. They've said she's dead. They had a small private funeral with just a couple people, with just Sam and Joe. No one else, not Victoria, not Carolyn, not Elizabeth, not Roger. You might say, well, why would those names matter? Because Sam really didn't like the Collins family. The one person everybody loved was who? Victoria Winters, Alexander Iles's character. So for Victoria not to be at Maggie's funeral was a big deal. You know, a funeral was a big deal. So that's where but you know, as the audience, she's not really dead. But what you can see between Anthony George and Alexander Iles, and they don't get enough credit for this, is the hurt of Maggie being dead. They don't know she's alive. And you feel for him right away, and you feel for Alex. Obviously, we've all been feeling for Alexander Iles' character since the beginning. These two's chemistry was good. I know look, I love Ryan Mitchell too. I love his betrayal of Burke. But really, the seeds for Anthony George's Ryan Mitchell were laid with, or sorry, Anthony George's Ryan Mitchell were laid. Anthony George is Anthony George's Burke Devlin. God, this is full of goof ups, right? So Anthony George's Burke Devlin, those seeds were laid with Ryan Mitchell's Burke Devlin. The I really do care, and he does. I mean, keep in mind, before I continue with Anthony George, Ryan Mitchell's Burke made up with Carolyn. If he never really cared about Carolyn, why did he bother to make up with her? It wasn't just Ania's. It wasn't Joe. Just pushing it. It was he really wanted to be her friend. If he was just using Carolyn, why did he bother to make up with her? You get what I'm saying? So there are seeds of Burke really gave a shit about people, about members of the Collins family, about Carolyn's mother. Now Anthony George, again, they don't know Maggie's alive. Anthony George and Alexander House, Victoria Winters, Burke Devlin, they're a couple. And it's not a shock. They were a couple with Ryan Mitchell. Remember, Ryan Mitchell took her dancing when Maggie got kidnapped. He you need to go, you need to get out. And, he's not just saying that as a friend, he's saying that as her boyfriend. You need to get away from all this. So, again, seeds planted. They're kissing. There's more kissing sequences with Anthony George. And I do think they were really well done. I do like Ryan Mitchell's kiss a little better because it's the first kiss you see Victoria ever have is with Ryan Mitchell's Burke Devlin, by the way. That's the first kiss we see Victoria Winters ever have. And like Burke said, you knew it was coming. You knew. So Anthony George's portrayal, I think he's going right off of what Ryan Mitchell laid the groundwork for, what Ryan Mitchell laid the seeds for. Everyone talks about how there was this big 180 change with Burke, when really there wasn't. Keep in mind, he had made up with Sam. Keep in mind, he wasn't necessarily pursuing Roger anymore. He had the truth. Elizabeth, again, I think the war with Elizabeth was just a front because he had nothing left other than to fall in love with Victoria Winters. I honestly think Ryan Mitchell's partial war with Elizabeth after the admission, he doesn't want to admit he's in love with this orphan governess. It's pride. That's my opinion. It's honestly pride. He doesn't want to admit he's fallen in love. And you might say, well, why not? Because keep in mind, this is the 60s. Men were so proud in the 60s. They were very, how do I say it? Macho-esque, if you will. There are men who just did not want to admit they were in love with a woman, especially a woman who, they weren't planning. If a man didn't plan it in the 60s, oh, I don't want that to happen. And that's how Burke was too. So he didn't plan to fall in love with Victoria Winters. So he was fighting that, I think. Ryan Mitchell's character was fighting that. Anthony George's character, here's what I'll say. He's done fighting it. Why should I fight it? All this crazy stuff is happening around me. Maggie's went from missing to now being dead. Here's this beautiful girl sitting beside me. What if that would have been her? What if it would have been her that went missing? What would I have done? I would have went to the ends of the earth. And that's sort of now, and by the way, you get that same feeling from Ryan Mitchell where what if it were Vicky? He would do anything for Vicky. And that's, by the way, those seeds are laid in the Phoenix arc, and prior to, well, not just the Phoenix arc, but prior to that with the Bill Malloy and the caretaker Matthew Morgan. When Matthew Morgan kidnaps Vicky and she goes missing, and Joe shows up and they say Vicky's missing, Burke hauls ass up to Collinwood. So again, the seeds for the he's in love with this girl are planted well before Anthony George shows up and plays Burke Devlin. Burke Devlin, Anthony George, again, I honestly feel he's just going off of what Ryan Mitchell laid the groundwork for. He's not doing this 180 change. And to prove it, he still has some of that cockiness and swagger about him when he's in the Blue Whale and he's talking about a business deal and Jonathan Fritz Barnabas shows up. Was Anthony George a better Burke Devlin than Ryan Mitchell? No, I wouldn't say that, but I dare say Anthony George's portrayal of Burke Devlin often goes well overlooked and is very, very underrated in my opinion. I think Anthony George's portrayal is as Burke Devlin is really, really, really good. And again, I think to go off the groundwork another actor created could I say what you want could not have been easy because again, who were you used to seeing? Ryan Mitchell, and now you're seeing Anthony George. But I love the way they introduced Anthony George's Burke Devlin because of the shot selection of you're hearing about Maggie. Then Maggie walks into the Blue Whale, and the reaction is amazing. Again, and what we're to prove that Anthony George was the same Burke Devlin, Barnabas when Anthony George starts trying to find out more and more and more and more, Anthony George's Burke Devlin tries to find out more and more and more about Barnabas. He comes so dangerously close, right? This is where Victoria intervenes because Barnabas told on him. He snitched on him. He snitched on him. He could have killed him, but no, it looked too suspicious, right? Do I wish they would have kept Anthony George's character alive around? Because I don't believe Burke Devlin ever did die in that plane crash. Yes, I do, and I do believe Burke Devlin is alive in the Amazon somewhere, my friends, and that's my insight. Anthony George played a great Jeremiah Collins, and I damn sure say he portrayed a really, really good Burke Devlin. So that's my review of the character. I hope you enjoyed this video. Big happy birthday to Anthony George. You guys have a great January. I'll see you guys in February.